Welcome back to Morning Express, the Friday edition, and our next discussion is one that borders on a number of issues, starting with the local government administration in Osun, and also touching on the River States Fund with the calls to probe the ex-administrator, Vice Admiral Ugbechie Ibas. We'll also talk about the presidential ambition of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar. Our next guest joins us virtually from Lagos. He's the publisher of Political Economist NG, Mr. Ken Ugbechie. Hello, Mr. Ken. Good morning and welcome to the program.
Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. Let's get straight into the discuss this morning. I would start with the presidential ambition of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, who is making the rounds this morning, having refuted an interview he granted suggesting that he would step down for a younger candidate. Atiku Abubakar is adamant that he would contest in a party primaries, and whatever the winning outcome is, that would decide his ambition. Let's get your thoughts on his position ahead of 2027. What do you make of it?
First and foremost, we have to admit and concede the fact that it is his right to run. He is within the remit of the law to run as a Nigerian, to aspire to the president, to the position of president of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. But it ends there. You see, we are in a democracy, and a very fragile and young one at that. And there is this unwritten document, a principle, an agreement, and even in democracies that are top democracies around the world, principles, whether written, whether unwritten, they still play a huge role. A southerner is leading the country at the moment. It is assumed that southerners will take 8 years before it goes to the north for another 8 years. We can manage it to that level where we don't care who is in the Aso Rock. But Atiku is discounting and discounting that because of his personal ambition. Don't forget that this man has been running since 1992. He has been running for the presidency of Nigeria. And my take is this: much as it is his right to run, you should also look at the sensibilities of Nigerians, the ethno-religious balancing that we are trying to manage, the fact that democracy grows and develops by consensus. It is not just about votes. Consensus is part of democracy. He seems to be the only one insisting that the next president must come from the north. A southerner is there. Another southerner should challenge him. That's my own thinking. That's the way I feel that democracy should grow. And Atiku, at his age and with all the experience, I think he should be playing the role of a kingmaker now, a real statesman that guides the younger ones. The problem we have had over the years is that we tend to elect or select geriatrics, what I call gerontocracy, government led by the oldies. Not that the young ones have been exceptional, but there's something about the strength of youth. The presidency of Nigeria is much more demanding than being the governor of a state, much more demanding than being a minister. The presidency of Nigeria tasks you both internally and externally. You have to be the face of diplomacy as the president. You have to be the face of leading the economic reengineering of the Nigerian situation. You have to be the face of the polity in terms of ensuring peace and security of the nation. You must therefore have the energy, the health, the strength, the wisdom, the intellect to do all of these things, to combine them and do them very well. On that score, I wouldn't rate Atiku very high. I have been a fan of Atiku. I have praised him in times past when he stopped, he aborted the third-term plot of Olusegun Obasanjo, even though he denies it. I'm a journalist. I say it emphatically that Obasanjo was going for total. And Atiku spearheaded that. And that to me was one high point he scored. But insisting that he must run every election cycle, you must run. You belittle yourself. You demarket yourself.
Now, Mr.
You
Ken,
devalue yourself. Yes.
Mr. Ken, you have cited the need for a southerner, probably a younger one, to challenge Alhaji Atiku Abubakar. As it stands now, Mr. Atiku is fighting for the flag bearer position under the ADC. The ADC's position through its national chairman, Senator David Mark, is that a primary will be free to all. But the Obedient Movement has issued a statement this morning saying that the 2023 Labour Party candidate, Mr. Peter Obi, would not participate in any dollarized party primary. Well, as it stands, Mr. Obi is only technically a part of the coalition, but is still a card-carrying member of the Labour Party. What do you make of this position of the national chairman vis-a-vis the position of obedient movements as to what they feel their principal would do or wouldn't do in what they term a dollarized party primary?
Yes, this is actually part of the traumatizing confusion in the Nigerian polity. It traumatizes the mind of the average Nigerian that politicians don't have ideologies. They can't stay in one party and remain there and build a party. They jump from party to party. If there is a coalition called ADC, and for anybody to have anything to do with that party, he must join that party. Peter B, to me, is not a member of ADC. He has not said he's a member. Peter B is still a Labour Party member. Atiku, in fact, the people from Atiku's ward said they don't recognize him as a member of ADC. He has to come to the ward to join. And that's actually how you join a party. You join from the ward. So because of this assumption, Atiku has this, I don't know where he got the ego from, that it just has to be me. It has to be him. And to me, that is not how democracy works. I said it before that it's by consensus. And the party chairman, for whatever, the ADC party chairman, for whatever reason, saying you will leave it open, it's also an assault on the sensibility of Nigerians. You know, and this is a leader, a statesman, the party chairman is a statesman. You know that in this country, we try to do some balancing between the North and the South in terms of positioning, especially the president of the country. And you know that the Southerner is there. So why not zone it to the South? If you really want a king contest, let me tell you, I'm saying it emphatically. I am saying it from my perspective as a political analyst, as a journalist, as an editor who has reported the polity for decades in this country. I say it with certainty that a Northerner will not be president in 2027. I say it because
that's a strong call.
We'll
see how that plays out. It might be too early to make such an affirmative statement, noting that it's still down to the vote of Nigerians.
Definitely. Nigerians, considering that, we vote according to that. You see, you have to also balance things. If you look at Nigeria, the story of Nigeria, 65 years, the Northerners have been in power for longer years, especially in days of the military. People are saying, look, let's have a sense of belonging. Let's have a sense of equity, fairness, and justice. These are things that govern. These are the pillars of democracy. So I am going to support and canvass and advocate for a Southerner to be the president of Nigeria in 2027.
Now talking about some of the key Southerners that might run, let's look at this, your prophecy, and the key Southerners that might run. Mr. Peter Obi, you have said, is yet to decamp from the Labour Party and join the ADC.
Yes.
The former President Goodluck Jonathan, seems to be a name that many have mentioned as a dark horse in this race. Do you think he will come back? He has now attained that role of elder statesman, kingmaker, and across Africa, more like a big uncle who comes to supervise other elections. Should he now come back to run in an election where people are saying it would just be a term, which he is technically eligible for?
You see, when people trump the name and trot out the name Goodluck Jonathan, I wonder where they are getting it from. Can we say that Jonathan was an outstanding president? I'm a fan of Goodluck Jonathan. I enjoyed the streak and stroke of good fortune that trailed his politics. From local government, from his state, deputy governor, coming to the central stage, he never fought a battle. The only time he fought to win an election, he lost. So you see somebody who has been, Providence has helped him all these years. But I am saying that what we need in Nigeria is not a good luck Jonathan. Jonathan pampered corruption. We don't want a leader that will pamper corruption. The problem of this country, and this is what I say any forum, our chief problem is corruption. We need a leader that will stamp out corruption, tame that buggy, and deal with the corrupt, just like the Asians have done, and they have moved ahead of us. We used to be on the same pedestal with some Asian nations, but they're far ahead of us. We have the same history with Indonesia. They are far ahead of us. Why? Somebody woke up to say, enough is enough. No more stealing. Let us stop this insidious cancer called corruption that has eaten up. Because of corruption, we have insecurity today. Because of corruption, we have Nigeria borrowing money. How can you be borrowing money when you have sold some crude oil over the decades and dollars? Where is your external reserve today? Why will you be borrowing in the manner that you are borrowing? So we need a leader that will stamp out corruption. I don't want to score Tinubu high on anti-corruption. I'm not scoring him high at all. To me, I expected Tinubu to stamp his feet, but he has not done that in the area of fighting, combating.
Now, Mr. Ken, before we get to the APC, I'd just like your thoughts on who this candidate might be, because you've dispelled the chances of former Vice President Atiku Abubakar, Mr. Peter Obi's chances, as well as former President Goodluck Jonathan's chances. Who do you think this savior might be?
It can be anybody. It can be a Tinubu if he turns and changes, if he repents. He might still win it again. And of course, he has the power of incumbency. And of course, because of what he's even doing and has done, you can see that price of goods and services are beginning to drop. Just this, from the first half of this year, that a bag of fries that we bought, even when Tinubu was there, that was 85,000, 80,000. I'm talking about rice produced in Nigeria. It's now 60-something thousand. In the same supermarket where we buy rice, it is now 66,000. And I said, well, maybe we are getting there. Maybe this financial engineering is paying off.
So you think this might influence Nigerians revoting him back in for a second term, as much as this?
It is left for Nigerians to do so. But I'm saying that Tinubu has shown courage. There's something that, we gloss over. What Tinubu is doing today is what Obasanjo ought to have done from 1999. To say enough is enough, let us produce. Let us do things the way it should be done as a nation. Let the industries be fired up, local production. Let non-oil export grow. You can see that non-oil export is growing because they are giving them incentives to export, to produce for export.
The Nigerian first policy.
Yeah, yes, Nigeria first. Everybody is doing first. France first. US first. Trump is champ. That policy has been in the US. It's only that Trump now made it loud, increased the volume. You must fight for your people now. Local content was not initiated by Nigerians. Local content has been a policy, whether it's in Europe or the Americas. People consider their state first, their country first, before the external investors. So that's one thing, that's one edge. Tinubu has shown courage to re-engineer the economy. But in terms of other issues as in politics and the rest of them, I don't think his politics is grand. It is not nationalistic yet. He's still prone to ethnic promptings. And I think for a nationalist like Tinubu coming to the big stage, because if we look at Tinubu as governor of Lagos State, he was among the first governors that appointed non-Southwesterners, non-Lagosians, non-Yorubas into his cabinet and giving them key positions. He did it while as governor. So that shows you grand vision of a leader. Now on the central stage, he has not done it in a manner that people expect him to do. But I'm saying that he has shown courage to lead. What he's doing today that has brought pain on us ought to have been done. We shouldn't be explaining that pain. But nobody did it. Not Jonathan, not Yaradua, not Obasanjo. Nobody did it. Buhari, of course, that to me, Buhari era was to me one of the worst eras in Nigerian the leadership.
In terms of the corruption indices, or what? In
terms of corruption, in terms of insecurity, that I expected him to score very high as a general, in terms of even the economy. You have something they call ways and means. How do you print money to pay salary? Are we in Venezuela? There are things that happen under Buhari that assault my ears.
So let me get you correctly, sir. The government of President Bola Ahmed Tinubu, still an APC government, is a better upgrade from the President Buhari government.
By far and very far margin.
All right. Now, what does this say?
Even though it's the same party, even though Tinubu worked for Buhari's emergence, but you see, leadership is down to the individual behind the wheel. It's like you are driving a limousine. If you give it to 3 different drivers, they will drive it differently. It's the same limousine. That is how leadership is. It's the same Nigeria, it's the same presidency. But I'm saying that in just 2 years, Tinubu has outpaced Buhari's 8 years.
All right. What does this speak for the opposition? Let's talk about the People's Democratic now, PDP. Reports making the round this morning that there are more cracks. A power tussle in the PDP's NWC is deepening. This was reported by The Nation earlier. The PDP, many do not see them as formidable enough as the ADC to challenge the APC, which you have said has improved in the last 2 years. But what are the futures of the PDP with this reports of many fractures as we continue to speak? There's the Governor Seyi Makinde faction, there's the Wike-led faction, and many are beginning to wonder, can the PDP, which used to be one of the biggest in the country, refine its glory days?
The problem of political party physiology in Nigeria is that at every point in time, political parties fail to define and identify and stick to their ideologies. That is the problem with PDP. PDP today does not have a leader. The PDP chairman is doing one thing, the secretary is doing another thing. Both of them, as recent as this week, and the secretary disagreeing with the chairman over who should convene this meeting or that meeting, and citing the constitution of the party. So PDP to me is almost by the graveyard, except something happened, because it has been so fractured that it can, to even produce a presidential candidate is a challenge, because that candidate will be challenged by different factions. Wike has a stronghold in PDP, even though it's working in APC. There are other factions in that same PDP. What that means that the party is weakened in a manner that it cannot. That's why there's no opposition to APC. There's no opposition now to. The only voice of opposition that resonates with the people is P2B. But even P2B's Labour Party is as fractured as the PDP. And let me tell you, political disintegration is not peculiar to these two parties. Even the CPC, even the APC that is incumbent, that is the leader, was at the time fractured. Under Buhari, CPC people were being favored. The other legacy parties complained. Even now, at some point in time, the CPC people were kicking that they were marginalized by the Tinubu government. They were favored by the Buhari government. Or these are just their own interpretations. But a political party must have the regenerative power to come back, to build those cracks, to paper them over, and then keep going. PDP has had fractures in the past from Obasanjo days, but they have a way of bouncing back. In fact, that's why they were.
Now, Mr. Ken, this bounce back you speak about, many thought the PDP was on its way to a bounce back when the former Senate President Bukola Saraki was saddled with heading the reconciliatory and mediating team. We also thought that they had formed a position on their national convention with the venue taken to Ibadan, up until the FCT minister said he was not aware of such arrangements, signaling that there might also be a fear that that convention might be in jeopardy. What do you make of this reconciliatory responsibility vested on the former Senate president and the hopes of a bounce back you're speaking about?
What that tells is that Salaki committee has not done anything effective. The cracks are still open. And let me tell you, the cracks will continue to be open, even get wider. Why? Some people are in PDP to work against PDP becoming one, becoming united. They are there. And they are being financed, they are being funded. And they are part of the leadership of the party. So when you have such fractured leadership, everybody coming with its own agenda, there can be unity. So PDP cannot build that consensus that will gather the momentum to challenge APC in 2027. I don't see PDP challenging APC, even though they still have a couple of states governed by PDP, which is actually an advantage for them. But when the presidential election draws nearer, I'm telling you that next year, there will be many dynamics, especially from mid next year, from June.
Just to buttress this point of yours on the defections of governors, the most recent were the governor of Delta and Akwa Ibom joining the APC. Just about a couple of days ago, the president of the Senate, Senator Godswill Akpabio, came out to say that he's confident that many more governors would defect, and there might also be large defections in the National Assembly of PDP persons into the APC. The president was accused of a one-party state earlier on, but he is backing it by the fact that it is not just one-way defections, that the other party members also leaving certain parties in the opposite direction. Let's get your comments on this one-party states and the projections that more defections are on the way.
I agree completely with Senator Akpabio, the president of the Senate. There will be more defections. Why? Their belly is their god in Nigerian politics. The belly of the politician is what you worship. They are going there for what they can get, not for service to people. They are not considering the people. They are considering their own personal selfish interests. So there will be more defections. APC has the pot. APC has the spoon. The pot is full, brimming, running over with food. And APC is sharing it. PDP, some of them are starving. So they want to come near the kitchen and get their own share from the sharing. That is why you are seeing defection. Those people that cross from APC to other parties are looking at their chances in 2027. But I may not get my ticket for this position that I'm running for, to return to Senate, to return to the House. So let me go to a party that I feel doesn't have a strong candidate yet. So that's why you must see defection. What governs this movement, these defections? Their belly.
But Mr. Ken, if this indeed what you're saying is true, how does the APC manage ambitions to avoid implosion? Because before these defections of some of the big wigs, take a state like Delta, they had a strong contender for the seat of governorship. How does the party manage these ambitions to avoid implosion?
It has to do so because it's in power and it has the money. And it has state power, state apparatchik. Whether it's a security apparatchik, the instruments of states belong to the party at the center. So I don't see APC imploding in that sense. Why? For instance, you mentioned Delta. Delta said, the governor said they moved to APC because they want to avoid the Zamfara effect. You know what happened in Zamfara? That they will cut through that the convention that you did that produced the governor, produced this, that was ineffective, null and void. There was illegality in the convention. So everything produced by that convention is null and void. That's how Zamfara, the PDP lost in Zamfara. So they are looking at those things because of the division in PDP. Now you are talking of a convention they moved to Ibadan. You know, like you rightly highlighted, once anything produced there, any decision reached there will be contended by the other factions in court. So you see a party that is fractious, no decision is a finality until the court comes into settle. And that is what Delta political juggernauts try to avoid. The governor, the former governor, that of Delta was peculiar because it is the entire structure of PDP. lock, stock, and barrel, from the bolts and the nuts to the main fixture to the big building. All of them moved like that to APC.
Now,
Do you blame them?
still using the Delta case story, sir. Let's examine this one-party state tendency, because in Delta now the whole structure has been moved into the APC, the executive, and even the legislative in the House of Assembly. Massive defections into the APC. Does this in any way define the one-party state tendency?
It does give the impression that Nigeria is operating a one-party state. But it has always been like that. It has always been like that, even from Obasanjo days, that even when Obasanjo was not loved in Ogun, even he lost losing his own word, PDP was controlling the national structure, and people were jumping into PDP. It took strong characters like Tinubu, who also have both the network, national network, and the money, because in politics is about money. You must have the money to convince people to come. You must have the money to compensate people. Instead of losing, okay, we give you X amount. You heard this group. This is the budget for this. This is the budget for this. They stay with you and work with you. Now, if PDP doesn't have that money, and PDP doesn't have that money, as a matter of fact, the way they had the money before, ADC may not have that kind of money, because incumbency is a factor in Nigerian politics, even in African politics. The incumbent has the purse, the war chest, to execute whatever they want to execute. So it is giving the impression that we are moving towards a one-party state. And it's not because of the fault of Nigerians. It is because the politicians are selfish. And it's also much more because the electoral system is weak. Because even if Nigerians, if the voters say, okay, let us do protest vote, let us vote for this candidate, do votes count in Nigeria? My answer is a big, fat no. Votes don't count just yet. Yes, they can give a semblance that more people voted for this, therefore this person won. But in the final analysis, the powers that be still want the person that will win to win. They bend the law, they walk through the system to produce what they want to produce or who they want to produce. So it is dangerous for Nigerian politics that we are moving to a one-party state. Truly dangerous, because that's not democracy. Democracy gives you option of choice. People must have choices to make. A potpourri of parties. Even a two-party system is not good enough for democracy.
Now, Mr. Ken, you had highlighted some of the policies of the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu administration in terms of getting Nigeria back on track. There are fallouts from some of these policies, and even with judgments obtained from the Supreme Court. One of this is the local government autonomy. Whilst technically has been granted, states continue to grapple with its implementation. Osun State has become the biggest case study, and this will be our next talking point. Currently, there are counter-accusations as to if monies were disbursed into private accounts or not. But we are told that the ICPC is also looking to entertain this. But as it stands now, the Osun State Assembly is one of the biggest voices. They are warning banks not to honor unauthorized financial transactions on local government accounts. Please, Mr. Ken, let's get your honest opinion on this development in Osun.
One word to describe what's going on in Osun, and maybe some other places, the word unfortunate. It's unfortunate that we found ourselves here. Unfortunate because we see the law in black and white, the law. We see a court judgment, well written, not in Latin, in English. We still want to do things at our promptings, whims, at our own caprice. That is the danger we have in our democracy. The danger of impunity is what's happening in Osun. When, President Tinubu suffered this under Obasanjo, he was the one that went to court, the Supreme Court, and Lagos State won. Supreme Court ruling then was that the federal government had no right to withhold a local government fund. Local government, there's a fund, it's a right. It's constitutional right to have that fund. The three tiers of government, they are the third tier in that three-tier equation. So why deny them government? Because you are the one that disburses. So Supreme Court has ruled, have an issue that federal government had no right to withhold, that's the executive, had no right to withhold local government fund. Now, in the case of Osun, last year, the court also ruled the autonomy of this same local government, 774 local government, that they are autonomous. Therefore, no government should dictate to them how they spend their money, what they spend their money on. Now, in the case of Osun, the law says release money to local government accounts. The Supreme Court says so last year, which means the disbursing body, which is the federal government, should release money direct to federal local government account. But the same constitution assumed, and the same Supreme Court assumed, that the account must be account of local government that were duly elected. You see, that is the beauty of democracy. Democracy is about the rule of law. You cannot be disbanding local governments at your own discretion, as if you are running a monarchy or an autocracy. Local governments are part of the constitution. Local government chairmen are duly elected or should be duly elected. And if they are duly elected, their money should be given to them. And that is the assumption and presumption of the Supreme Court and the Constitution, that this local government they are talking about must not be a local government of appointees.
Or caretaker chairman.
Or caretaker, appointed at the behest of the governor or whoever is in charge. So that is where the distortion is. Who do you release money to? Is it the one caretaker local government or the local government that was duly elected? Because that local government ought to be duly elected local government. Caretaker governments are not in the Constitution. In fact, you saw what happened in Rivers State, where a state of emergency was declared, and what happened, that even budget had to be bypassed. No more state assembly. It took the National Assembly to approve the budget. Even though I don't agree with the state of emergency, but I'm saying that these distortions are unfortunate. And in the case of Osun, it lingers because we have a weak anti-crime system. My brother, the greatest incentive to crime and criminality is the probability that you cannot be punished. That is the equation, the summation of that equation: commit crime, not being punished. The answer is impunity.
Now Mr. Ken, technically speaking, yeah, is it a crime to still be operating a joint account despite a Supreme Court judgment mandating that there be dedicated accounts for local governments?
If it is not for a governor to determine that joint account, the ruling and the constitution say, give this X money to local governments. So give it to them. If local governments have to do a joint account for whatever reason with the state government, it has to be a consensus. It has to be an agreement between the local government and the state. It is not one person determining it. Governors determine it. And it shouldn't be so. It should never be so. You see, that's why we see local governments, nobody audits them. Why? The government has put its money in the cookie jar. He has taken. It doesn't have the moral right to even ask, the road to my house, which is a local government road, why is it not done? The street, why is it not done? He cannot question the local government in terms of accountability. So, that, to me, that joint account should be scrapped. Local government should be allowed to run so that we can hold them responsible. Go to many local governments that they are in charge of primary school, payment of teachers. Teachers are owed by local governments. Local government is local government administration is the worst in the country because all of us are focusing on the federal government and the state, especially even the media. We are not focusing on the government that is closest to the grassroots, the people, the local government. Some of them don't stay in there where they govern, where they have the administration. They don't stay there. They don't live there. They don't live among their people. They are always in Abuja. Local government chairman, what are you doing in Abuja? Stay among your people. That's why you are there. Network with the councillors. What are the needs of our people? Let us meet their needs. Once you meet the needs of the local government, the local people, let me tell you, government will be made even easier for state governors and even for the federal government. So local government should sit up. They are not doing enough. That's my verdict.
We're coming to the Rivers State situation you highlighted, but before we wrap up on this local government autonomy, now there's a law enabling autonomy. The bureaucracy involved in opening dedicated accounts, many question whose duty it is to implement this judgment and actively see that states now have dedicated accounts and can directly receive FAC allocations. Whose responsibility is it to enforce this judgment?
Enforcement is not the responsibility of any governor. We are made governors headmasters of states. They shouldn't be, because Tinubu does not order any governor around. Any governor that orders a local government around should also be subject to the ordering and command of the president at the center. Local government is their responsibility to open account. And the local government chairman, at that point, should make sure that whoever is the next officer that should be signing with him, which is usually an employee, a civil servant, we are the one to administer that account. They are the one that should be held responsible for whatever happens to that account. We shouldn't have this blood situation whereby we don't hold anybody to account. The directors, there must be a director there, a senior person, whoever, whatever acronym they be, or nomenclature you are ascribed to them. There must be somebody who's a civil servant, topmost civil servant, who will be signing with the local government chairman. And when the tenure of that local government chairman expires, he didn't return. We all run the associations now. You write to the same bank. We'll do a resolution, write to the same bank that signatory has to change. This is not the new signatory. And they will honor it. Don't have a right not to honor such. But because of the distortions, you are giving banks ultimatum, giving them directly, don't honor this, don't honor that. Come on. It shows that your house is not in order. Put your house in order, and banks will deal with you as one. You are not one yet, so you created distortion. But it's also because I said it that anti-crime system is weak. They are ought to probe these people and jail them. I said before that greatest incentive for crime is that you are not punished. People are stealing local government money. Somebody is overreaching himself by saying you cannot open this account. Come on, we have ICPC, why we FCC? We even have in the police the financial crime department that deals the financial crime. The NFIU tracks all the movement of money, even though they are not prosecutory, but they know who moved what money from what account to what account. They are there. They give an order to a bank. Say, let's have a breakdown. Print out this. You have to see the printout of this account. You see how the money moved. These people should be prosecuted, but because they are not prosecuted, nobody asking questions. They can keep doing what they like, and the people are there suffering.
All right, Mr. Ken, well said. Let's come back to the Rivers situation. You had earlier noted that you did not support the declaration of a state of emergency on Rivers. But following the reign of the sole administrator for 6 months, petitions were filed. This morning, it's on the record that the ICPC is reviewing some of those petitions filed against Vice Admiral Ugbechie Ibas, retired. What do you make of the ICP's position on this? Do you think the probe would yield any results? And if so, would there be punishments for crimes like you had been reiterating in your earlier remark?
You know, the thing about anti-crime in Nigeria is that over the years, some of us have lost confidence in ICPC, EFCC, whatever name you want to name them. But writing a petition, investigating a petition, investigating a leader by a left office is part of democracy. That is accountability. Accounting to the public. And it is the demand of the media. I'm happy that the media is highlighting it, because our duty in the media is to bring these public actors to account to the people. The people of Rivers State must know how Ibas, retired Vice Admiral, spent the money allocated to the state. It was not allocated to Ibas. It was allocated to Rivers State, for Rivers people, for the development of the people. So the man should be probed, thoroughly investigated. The same man that put 28 billion to buy CCTV in his budget. That is what the House of Rep told you. He didn't spend the money. He has not spent that money. We're not sure the money was released for CCTV, but how can somebody allocate 28 billion naira for CCTV? Is it not the CCTV that you and I know? 28 billion for CCTV? Iriko cover the space, aerial space, terrestrial, celestial, in rivers. Come on. So even from prima facie, going by what the man put down in his budget that he gave to National Assembly, and going by queries raised by the same National Assembly on his budget, the man ought to be investigated. And that investigation should be thorough and made public to the people. My worry is that Nigeria, we do hide and seek a lot. We don't do name and shame. And that is not good for any democracy. Democracy is transparency, openness. That's all what it's all about. There must be openness. When I mention Asian countries, South Korea, Indonesia, let me not go to India. They are far ahead of us. Malaysia, Singapore. We used to be at par with some of them. We used to be ahead of some of them at independence, in the 1960s. But they are gone ahead of us. China, they opened their books. Prime ministers have resigned in Asian countries, even in Europe, on allegations of corruption. A prime minister will resign because he said, I have brought shame to my family, to my people. By that accusation alone, he has not been convicted. We don't do that here. You will catch somebody stealing. There are people that will defend him. In fact, people will own up to that stealing. That is our son. Is it the case of our son that you want to investigate? So we have a long way in terms of our value system to deal with our problem. Nobody can solve our problem.
And this sort of sets a precedence for what is obtainable in the future. I remember when the state of declaration of emergency in itself became a huge debate. Many pointed at the president's comments during the Chief Olusegun Obasanjo era when he declared such on Plateau State and suspended the Plateau State Governor Joshua Chibidare as a then. But many years down the line, history in its way has a way of being funny, and it's replayed out as scripts. There's also the issue of the cancellation of the local government elections and if it was legitimate for a sole administrator to oversee the conduct of an election of local government officials. For the sake of history and setting the right antecedents or precedents going forward, how do you suggest we handle these issues of declarations of state of emergency, suspension of executive and legislative arms of government in a state, and even the conduct of elections under whoever is an interim administrator in whatever instance?
That is why some of us didn't like what Tinubu did. I condemned it. Tinubu shouldn't have declared state of emergency in Rivers State. Forget the fact that he saved the situation. How did he save the situation? There is a law. Follow the law. You reminded us. You quoted the Constitution when you were governor, when you were in the opposition. Not just when you were governor, when you were in the opposition, actively in the opposition. That President A had no right to declare state of emergency. You quoted the Constitution. We have not changed that part of the Constitution. No. So the same violation that you accuse people is what you did now. I'm talking of President Tinubu. He violated the law by declaring state of emergency in Rivers. Now, that state of emergency that produces a sole administrator, in the eyes of the Constitution, is an illegality. Illegality cannot produce legality. That man had no right to conduct election. Illegality cannot breed legality. Anything founded on illegality is still null and void, ultra vires and of no effect in the eyes of the law. But because we have become a lawless nation, truly we have. Because we look at our constitution. Constitution is our Magna Carta. It's our charter of equity, collectively so. People have been reviewing it now. We have been reviewing this constitution in our democracy. So by now, we ought to be abiding by just those lines, written things in the constitution. Tinubu did not abide by the constitution. Ibas was a misnomer, an illegal entity, and whatever he represented in Rivers. As an illegal entity, Ibas cannot conduct an election that will be valid in the eyes of the law, especially local government election. So it is illegality producing illegality. That's my summation of what happened in Rivers State.
And now going forward, it's also a what I call it, a budding time in our democracy or our growth in nationhood, at a point when loads of constitutional review committees and summits have been held across different regions in the country. submissions and deliberations are to what would form a new constitution, or how does Nigeria chart its course going forward. The 1999 constitution has been, in some words, called a post-military industrial document. What do you make of the position of several recommendations, and what do you feel would be the right way to get it right in setting forward the Modena Carta, like you call it, for the operation of our nation, Nigeria, going forward?
The issue is that countries that have a lower volume of constitution, they are more law-abiding. Even nations that have what looks like pamphlet as their constitution are more law-abiding than the one that has a very complex, complicated constitution called the Nigerian Constitution, 1999 as amended. Constitution does not guarantee you civility. It is the application of what the Constitution, the nuggets of that Constitution. Having a document does not make you a good democracy. It is the implementation of what is in the document, what is in the vision, what is in your manifesto, that makes you a government that is successful or not. We have been revising, adding, removing our Constitution. But if you look at the Constitution, this Constitution that we are operating, it is too flawed to be good. It is too flawed to produce good governance. It is too weak and too distorted, too ineffective, too disoriented. How can a constitution be promoting religion? Promoting one religion does not promote another religion. How do you do that? How do you balance such? Can the constitution recognize that states should just do their own religion or whatever in their own states and leave religion alone for the nation? Leave it alone. It shouldn't be part of our national constitution. But the constitution is focusing more on religion, this and that, and I keep wondering, what are we doing to ourselves? Why can't the Constitution of Nigeria say that any country, any foreign investor that's coming into this country must allow 40% equity for Nigerians before you set up shop? Why would the Constitution say and promote local production? Now, what should be exported on Nigeria will not be raw material from at this stage, but we must process finished products, finished goods. Why can't the Constitution think of building the nation? Why is the Constitution so much focused on individuals and the promptings of individuals? Why would our Constitution frown or even look away when somebody who has contested for a presidential primary in the same election year will now run and go and pick senatorial tickets? What kind of prostitution is that? Political prostitution, political larceny, political corruption. When you see such distortions, such decay, rot in the polity, you ask yourself, do we really need a constitution? Does it matter that we have a constitution? So these are the things that I see as constitution is just there, an academic document. We have reduced an academic document. It's unfortunate, and it shouldn't be so. The laws in the constitution should be effective, should be carried out by the people that should do it. The police, ICPC, EFCC, in the area of crime. Political juggernauts that rig the election. What does the constitution say about that? And why are we not punishing them? People that bribe their way, people that buy votes or cause votes to be bought. These things have been investigated. Why are we not naming them and shaming them and jailing them? That's the only way to clean all this politics. We cannot continue this way. We are putting in so much effort, but we know that the effort we are putting in is just for our belly. Those people in the center, those people who deliver of power, it's for their belly, self-interest. We need that leader that is selfless, in the mode of Lee Kuan Yew, in the mode of Xi of China. Leaders that will come and say, let us put a marker down here. From this point going forward, under my watch, if you steal, we jail you. The system will jail you, including a person fighting corruption. Because we have seen police chiefs punished in other countries, anti-corruption chiefs jailed in other countries, punished their money taken from them, the money they stole, recovered by government. We don't see such here. ICPC will tell them they have how many thousand convictions. Who are the people you convicted? The people fighting oil bunkering will be telling me about militants in Niger Delta. They found 10 jerry cans in one mosque, in one church, in this. Is our problem jerry can stolen, crude oil stolen in jerry can? Our challenge is crude oil is stolen when ship enter here, given clearance by Nigerians. Nigerians who are, whether they are serving or retired, this same ship will stay for weeks and load and leave Nigeria. Ships don't move like that. They are not 2K boss. 3 ships are tracked. Any ship, at any moment in time, you know where it is, just like an aircraft.
All right, Mr. Ken, we must appreciate you. Our time allotted is up. We appreciate your thought-provoking and inciting engagements on Morning Express. We do hope to have you on the program sometime again, but we're wishing you the best of your weekend ahead.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Always a pleasure.